Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soul Wide Open with me, your host, Michelle Renee. I cannot wait to tell you about this amazing, wonderful 80 something year old man who was blind. He had a degenerative condition and he slowly went blind in his lifetime. And I ended up having the absolute honor of taking care of him. And I don't think he has any idea what he taught me and actually brought to my life. But I am going to share that with you today. I can't wait for you to hear and learn about Jack and something really important that he taught me to take forward into the rest of my life. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Soul Wide Open podcast with your host, author and certified trauma-informed coach Michelle Renee.
Hey, everybody. Oh my gosh, I am sitting in my studio right now. It is so hot out. And I was debating, okay, should I just go have a pool day, a Sunday, or really just finally just do this episode because I can't stop thinking about Jack. And I thought I need to just go share my experience with this wonderful man and just get it out because I can't get it off of my heart and I can't get it off of my mind. So Jack was an 80 something year old man that I met when I was interviewing for different jobs as a caregiver. So if I back it up just a little bit, I don't know how many of you know that my daughter collapsed at 18 and was blind and paralyzed on the entire left side of her body. And her diagnosis was a really rare form and catastrophic onset of multiple sclerosis. So I had to leave my career again. I had to walk away from everything I had going on and just become her caregiver. And I ended up going and getting my certification through the state to become her caregiver so that I could actually get paid to be her caregiver. But that pay for these caregivers out there who are doing this for their families, they are getting paid almost nothing. It wasn't enough for me to pay my bills and be able to survive really. So because I had the certification, I ended up registering to be a caregiver for other people part-time when my daughter was able to start to kind of care for herself a little bit better and I didn't need to be there for her full time. I decided to take on part-time little caregiving gigs. And lo and behold, I end up meeting Jack and I go to interview with him. And he's this blind man. And I interview with him and his son, who is also going through this degenerative decline in his vision. And he's not really at a place where his decline is causing him significant issues quite yet, but Jack is completely blind. I find out that Jack used to have his sight and he lost his sight gradually. So he remembers what certain things looks like. He knows what colors look like. He ended up having those things in his life and being blessed to experience those things with sight in his life at one point, but he no longer had that. So when I'm interviewing, I'm finding out that really what he needs, because he can no longer cook, he needs somebody to basically just come over and cook for him and make sure his place is cleaned up. This was like easy peasy gig, right? And I love to cook. I am such a cook. And so I decided to accept this position. And before I know it, I'm over at Jack's like 2 or 3 nights a week. And I'm making him leftovers, right? I make him a plate for then and I make him a plate for the next day. But what ended up happening being there with Jack and cooking him his meals, I can't cook without making it this great presentation. Ask my daughter, raising her. I mean, my brother Ernie was the same way. We are always trying to make it just a little bit more gourmet. And we're making these beautiful sauces and we're garnishing it and we're making the plate really visually beautiful. Well, Jack doesn't necessarily need that. He can't see the plate, but I can't really cook any other way. And for me, I thought to myself, what if I make this plate so beautiful, and I can explain to him the colors, the spices that I used, how the plate is arranged, how I cooked it with the different spices, and make it the most beautiful plate, and then describe that beautiful plate to him so that he could enjoy it even more. I ended up doing this for Jack for months, and I have to say, every time I would show up to cook and I would make these wonderful meals for him, the joy that I saw on his face and when he was eating this, and it got to the point where he looked so forward to me describing his plate and his meal for him. He would ask me, "Okay, I'm ready. Tell me what it is." Like, he was so excited. And then my daughter started coming over there with me, and we would take him walks up to the end of the street and back on his walker because he still wanted to get out and get exercise. And one of the most important takeaways from that time with Jack, who ended up really declining, he ended up having a stroke and having to go to a home, and I wasn't taking care of him any longer, but we still went and visited him at the home. And when his son's vision declined, his family called me and asked me if I could please come and take care of his son as well. And I had moved on from that. My daughter had recovered and was living her life, and I was moving on to my career and starting my company. And so I declined. I could no longer do that. But what a compliment that was, and bringing me back to what I felt made that so special. And they invited us to his family reunion. Like, we were there, met the whole family. It was such this beautiful relationship. But what really made it not just special for me, but what it taught me to do in life, what it taught me was so, so important in life, was not just how we prepare and present a meal. This was so much more than that. How do we present ourselves? How do we present our message to other people? Not only in a way that brings us more joy, but it brings other people more joy. How do we prepare for anything? It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's for a date. It doesn't matter if it's for a business meeting or a board meeting. It doesn't matter if it's for going to a concert or a night out with our girlfriends or a vacation. How do we prepare that or prepare for that? How do we prepare to enjoy that on every single level? And for me, preparing this meal for Jack taught me how absolutely important not just preparation is and the care that goes into that, but the delivery of that, the presentation of that preparation, of all that we've been preparing for. For me right now, I'm thinking so much about my second book, 9 Days Living with My Soul Wide Open After Violent Trauma. It just sold, and it's being developed into a 3-part limited television series. And I'm thinking all about everything I did to prepare for this moment. I was visualizing, I was doing things around my house to really visualize this coming into fruition. I started this podcast because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just selling my book and staying in the background. This is about a message. This is about what I've learned through a really, really traumatic situation in my life that I've turned around for myself and my daughter. And I want other people to know that it is so possible to do that. But how did I prepare for this? I took a class and got my certification in being trauma informed because I wanted to learn trauma from a place of being intellectual, from an intellectual perspective. I was preparing for this meal, so to speak. I was positioning things on my plate of life and preparing for this presentation to hand this plate over to somebody and go, look at everything I've done to prepare for this moment to make sure that I've done everything that I can for this project, not to be successful just for me, but for everybody who's coming forward that says, I believe in this project. We're going to invest in this project. We believe in you and everything that you've done to prepare for this, from staying up on my social media to getting my certification to starting this podcast to starting the Soul Wide Open community, and all of the messaging and the branding and all of the work that has gone into all of this literally for years. It has been. And this was all to prepare this plate that I'm going to be setting in front of somebody, wanting them to be excited for it, wanting them to get as much joy or more out of it as I am and as I will continue to do. And all of that, I learned this lesson when I was taking care of Jack. He would eat this meal, he would listen to me describe this meal and how I prepared for it. All of the pieces that made up this beautiful plate that he was so excited to enjoy and try. And it made him so happy. It made me so happy to see him in that way, enjoying, which is what I love about cooking. I love the creative art of cooking, but I think even more so, I love to watch people enjoy something that I enjoyed preparing for them so much. That's part of it. My brother Ernie was the same way. He loved this too. But it taught me how important it is to prepare in a way that brings you joy, not rush, just throwing things together, plopping things down on a plate, plopping things down, throwing stuff in your suitcase. No, how do you thoughtfully, lovingly, joyfully prepare to present something to somebody, whether it's your message, whether it's your brand, whether it's your podcast? What is it that you are not preparing well for? What is it that you're not preparing with joy? It could be your home, it could be your environment. I'm really big on welcoming myself home. Even when I walk in my studio, I designed this in my office. I designed it to make sure that when I open the door, I feel this sense of joy, this sense of happiness, this sense of creativity. That's why the colors and the different things, it's this modern and whites and brights and different colors that make me feel a certain way. There's a whole psychology around color, and this has everything to do with our foods and stuff too. This has everything to do with cooking too. There's psychology around what is evoked in us because of certain colors, different moods, different emotions. So I really wanted to share what I learned from Jack. I'm so grateful for that time in my life that was a really, really difficult time in my life that had many silver linings. I mean, what my daughter and I went through with her multiple sclerosis was, I mean, a time that, not that we weren't already really, really close, but it was really hard as a mom, watching my daughter have to learn how to walk again and talk again and feed herself again, and all of the things that went into being her caregiver and being her biggest cheerleader, her biggest champion. I was creative with all those exercises in our living room and turning the garage into a therapy room. And I mean, that was a couple of really hard, but also really beautiful times for us. And meeting Jack was one of those really beautiful times for us. She would walk with him when she was learning how to walk again, and they would walk up the sidewalk together. And then we found this game that we could play, a card game with him, that we could read the card for him and play this sort of get to know you game with him. And he was such a blessing for us to meet. And for him to, and not even realize it, for the message for me in life to take forward with me that I learned in being a caregiver for this sweet 80 something year old blind man named Jack, I will never, ever, ever forget. And I hope that you get this sort of analogy and you get this lesson that I'm wanting to share with you, that is so important to take with you forward in life, especially if we've gone through trauma, if we've gone through hard times. It doesn't matter what it is that we've gone through, we're still here. We're still living, we're still breathing, we still have blood pumping through our veins. Like, what are we going to do with the rest of this time that we have left? And how are we going to prepare for that time? And how are we going to prepare that? We're going to prepare that just in dread, or are we going to prepare in a state of joy, in a state of gratitude? Are we going to prepare knowing that he didn't need to see this meal? But guess what? I wanted to give him that gift. It wasn't about me. It was about him. It was about being in total service to him and making sure that I was there to do a particular job, and I was going to do that to my absolute 1000 best of my ability and bring joy into his life. Like, that's our job on the planet, I feel like. How are we bringing joy to other people's lives? And I know how much joy we brought to Jack. He told us, his family told us, and I hope Jack knows how much joy he brought to our life and how much he taught me that was so, so valuable moving forward into even today, right now, and forward. I am always thinking about the best way to prepare, the best way to deliver, the best way to show up, the best way to present something to someone, and also appreciate all of the work that went into bringing this project forward or bringing this meal to this person. That is just one way that we can sort of be so mindful in our lives on an everyday basis. And that's something that I really strive to do, is to be as mindful as I possibly can every single day. So take this lesson forward, take this message forward with you. I hope it's been a big help for you. How you prepare, how you deliver something, your brand, your business, your everything. It doesn't matter what it is, your home, all that stuff, your office, your studio, your everything. Do it with joy, do it with total intention, and make sure that you are serving that up in a way that you're super, super proud of. Thanks for tuning in. Share the show, like it, love it, appreciate all the support, and I'll see you next time.